Monica is a 2023 graphic novel by the American author-artist Daniel Clowes. Clowes was born in Chicago in 1961. He began producing art for a living in 1985, and between 1989 and 2004, published a series called Eightball, which redefined the boundaries of what comic art could do, tackling philosophical and cultural themes in a sophisticated, iconoclastic manner. He dislikes the term graphic novel, but will stick with it. This review contains spoilers. Monica tells the life story of a woman, Monica herself, born to a hippie mother in the early 1960s. The mother, Penny, lives a freewheeling but miserable life of perpetual non-commitment until she finally abandons Monica to her grandparents, who are much more conventionally responsible than she is and who bring Monica up to be much more like themselves. Monica grows up to be a successful businesswoman, but she also becomes obsessed with the question of what Penny, her mother, did. Is she still alive? Who was the father? And so on. The book's divided into 9 chapters, most of which tell some part of this story, but some of which are only connected to it very obliquely or possibly not at all. It turns out that Penny was part of an outlandish cult, which Monica rashly tries to investigate by joining. There's far more to Monica's quest than the laws of science can possibly contain. So, for example, we get a radio that speaks with the voice of Monica's dead grandfather. Or maybe we don't. Maybe it's something Monica only dreams when she's in a coma. We also get a boy who turns into a tree. In other words, it isn't a straightforward journey of discovery. Monica eventually finds both her parents, but neither that nor anything else she does brings her closure. The counterculture of the 1960s, which is often romanticized nowadays, is depicted here as brutal, superficial, unmodelled, and Monica's a product of that. At the end, what she's left with is something like the pieces of a broken mirror. If she can just put them together again, she might be able to get an accurate picture of herself. Ultimately, though, she can't, partly because she herself, like all of us, is constantly changing, but partly because there's a deep-seated horror behind the cracks that no amount of glue can possibly conceal. What that horror consists in, Clowes can't tell us. It may be untellable. Instead, he uses tropes from genre horror: zombies, blue-skinned monsters, a needy voice from beyond the grave, the literal end of the world. Some readers might see that as a failure of nerve. Instead of pursuing the central mystery, the author retreats into his comfort zone, doing what he already knows he can do well. Others might see it as exactly the sort of thing a graphic novel should do, bringing to bear its own unique tools for interpreting the world. I'll leave the question of who's right up to you. Monica can be read as suggesting that any attempt to reconstruct a life's meaning from within, or from any vantage point at all, is always destined to fail. We hear a lot today about people's journeys or about them scouring the past for clues about who they really are. This book suggests the quest may be futile, not least because it's everlasting. The book begins with 2 pages setting Monica's life in the context of the 4-billion-year-old history of life on Earth, but also because it's never detachable from the distorting context of a more pervasive absurdity. In summary, this is a bleak book. Whether you think what it's saying has been said equally well or better before partly depends on whether you think the graphic novel directly competes with traditional forms of literary and visual communication. So, over to you.